In this video, I'll demonstrate how to use string methods to manipulate text in Java. Okay, so I've got the beginnings of my shopping cart application. What I want to do here is I want to create a couple of strings and then an index value. The strings will contain a customer name and we'll populate that. We'll create a string called first name that will just be the customer's first name. We're not going to populate that because we're going to use some string manipulation methods to access that. And then finally, we'll create an integer variable called space index, and that will allow us to just grab that first name in the customer's name. So we'll start with string. And this one I'm going to populate with Sally Smith. And then another string called first name, and this one won't be initialized because we actually use this later in the code to grab that first name. And then finally an integer variable called space index. And space index will allow us to grab that space between Sally and Smith, so we can use that to identify the first name of the customer. Now I'll create a comment here. Okay, so we'll use that space index integer that we created. And then we're going to grab cust name, so the customer's name. And the way we do this is we use dot and then index of. And you can see as I start typing that NetBeans is going to give us some help here. And the very first one, index of, is the one we want. And I'll go ahead and replace cust name with a space. So again, what we're doing here is we're saying, let's go ahead and grab that customer name and find out where the space is located in the customer's name, because the space is going to separate the first and the last name, and assign that value to the variable called space index. So the value would actually be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It would be 6, okay? Or it would actually be 5 because it starts with 0. Now I'll create another comment here. We're going to use the substring method to locate the first name. So it looks like this. First name. Remember, we created first name and then we didn't populate it, and the reason for that is because we want to use it here. Equals cust name. And here's the substring method. So it's dot substring, just like that. Go ahead and press enter. And then we use 0, comma, space index. And the reason we use 0 is because what we want to do is start counting from the very first character, that capital S in Sally's first name, and then count out space index. Remember, it was assigned the value of 5, or the 6th spot in the customer's name. So we use that to actually start with 0 and then count out to spaced index. And what it's going to do is populate all those characters up to, but not including the space, and put that value in first name. And the way we can check to make sure that actually works is to use the systemout.println method. All right, here. Print line, and then in the parentheses we'll put first name. Okay, it looks pretty good. Now if everything worked according to plan, when we run this we should actually see the name Sally appear in the output window. There you go. So that's effectively how you work with strings using the substring method, and these different ways of being able to actually grab that information using a neat little trick like index of and searching for the space between the names.